Howdy folks, it is Monday, May 30th, 2011. It is Memorial Day. I am Skip Ruddertail, your otter editor, and with me, as always, is the infamous...
Toons is the jaywalking cat.
Yeah.
Toons is the headstraying cat.
Right. We've got a good story to talk about this week. Rahne Kallon's Carnal Shock.
Carnal Shock.
Carnal Shock, yes. Very dramatic title, and we could talk about that too.
Carnal knowledge.
I also wanted to give a little report because I was gone last weekend. As you know, I was at FAU for Affinity United. That was one of the two big furry gatherings going on last weekend. May is a little crazy. Was Elliott Spring Gathering?
Elliott Spring
down
Gathering.
south was also going on, and I had a couple friends who went to that. But yeah. Note to people planning or organizing furry cons, pick a different month than May. May's a little crazy. I think there is a con every week, at least one, sometimes more than one, every weekend in May. So I think this week it's Rocket City. There's Cali for next weekend. You know, just back off a little.
And FAU had attracted so many people. How many people did it attract?
FAU had about, I think, 530 something.
530. That's
which
almost
is more than last year.
Almost enough to make a high school football game interesting.
Exactly. Hey, that
many people cheering in a crowd would almost be significant.
I like little cons, actually, because there's a lot of time for talking with folks and networking. And if you're at a big con, you know, it's always a party and a zoo going on. So you do different things at little and big cons, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I had a good time. I went up with White Fox and Harvey the Hare, the owners of Rabbit Valley. And I did guest star on Live from the Hop-In, so make sure you catch me on this week's episode. So I want to give a shout out to them, so do check them out at Live from the Hop-In, and do pick up some books from rabbitvalley.com. Yes, doing some podcast hopping. I also, hopefully, am making a little appearance on Buck Hopper's Furry Basketball Association, too. So we'll see that. And they take a little longer, because they do some really neat editing tricks, so probably about a month for that. But do check him out, because he's awesome. So yeah, I had a good time. We sold a lot of books. We basically sold out of all the Bad Dog Book stuff, so I was happy to see that. I think we had one copy of Roar 2 left and one copy of Heathen City 2. Sold out of everything else. Could have sold some more copies of some of the stuff, so that was nice to see. Very happy about that. But yeah, I had a good time. And you'll have to come next year. Yeah.
Hey, and thanks to all our fans out there for buying our stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we couldn't do it without you.
I was also really touched. A woman there was telling her friend, I overheard her saying, not to me, but to her friend, God, I love the Bad Dog Book Club so much. So whoever you are who said that, I think that was during the FBA, the Free Basketball Association thing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That was really made my day. And you rock. So
Skip's day.
You can be fan number 1, right?
Yeah, well, Skip's gonna get an incredible ego here. I think it's just a short matter of time if people keep saying nice things about him. I mean, I want to encourage you all. I mean, I give plenty of nice things to say about him.
Yes. We are, I should point out the air conditioning is not on yet, so, and it is a pretty warm day here in DC, and both Toonses and I are broadcasting shirtless. So for those of you in on the video feed, you're getting a treat.
There is no video feed.
Shh, don't tell them that. Don't tell them there's no video feed.
Why did you have to tell them I took my shirt off? Like, oh my goodness.
Because you're the eye candy.
Because I'm the eye candy. It's a radio show.
You're the eye candy.
It's the... No. Ah, geez, that's not how it works.
All right. Well, I guess we should, I guess
to avoid the embarrassment.
Yes, exactly.
Jeez, I'm crowd.
So there was a story here somewhere this week, I think, right?
Oh, but before.
Oh, okay.
Before, I'm actually doing now what I'm going to apologize for.
All right.
But I wanted to get to the subject before we got too far into what we're going to talk about the story. I received, I think, over the last week, some constructive criticism.
Oh.
And maybe an opportunity to apologize to you. And I just want to say, not to offer it as an excuse, but it is my personal viewpoint. I don't realize I'm doing it, but I've been told by a couple people recently that I've interrupted you a lot.
Oh, really? I feel I interrupt you a lot.
Oh, I don't know. Well, at any rate, I do think it is necessary to, let people finish their points, and, it doesn't irritate me when people interrupt me. So if anything, I'm going to try to remain conscious of that. Because I think it's good just to make sure you listen to constructive criticism when you get it. And if nothing else, maybe if we're not sensing it, if they're hearing it, that I'm interrupting you, maybe they want to hear what you're saying, even if I'm tired to shit.
I don't know. I think you may be lucky that he's interrupting me, because I'm probably blathering on too long. So I think it's a fail-safe mechanism, I believe is what they call it. You just cut in when I'm just starting to drone on.
It's certainly a more aggressive form of socializing. It's something that you probably learn from.
Well, I was worried I interrupt you too often, so we can agree that we interrupt each other too often. Let's shake on it.
Sure, but
naked,
the important thing,
half naked shake on it.
Oh my goodness,
the important thing.
I'm gonna put my shirt on.
Oh, come on!
Celebrate me.
Don't do it. You're actually doing it. Why? You're gonna be hot.
I'm joking.
I mean, you're going to be hotter. Yes. Oh, that was the other FAU news. We almost forgot. Many of you have already seen it, and I think it'll be up on the website soon. We have our first Bad Dog Book Club official artwork by the amazing and talented Rukus, who can be found on Fur Affinity at Rukus. That's Rukis. She did an excellent picture. It was great because I've met her several times. She's actually has done the Fang 1 cover, which will be debuting at Anthrocon next month. But I said, I want to do something. I mean, this is a porn podcast half the time, so I want to do something that's a little risque, but that we could crop nicely. And she paused for a moment, and then book club, and she grinned, and she said, what if you're reading at a table, and underneath the table, you're getting busy? And that was it. I was like, that is brilliant, you're a genius, and then she ran with it. So that's how that came about. So we hope you enjoy the hopefully first of many copies of Bad Dog Book Club art.
Really?
Yes.
Tons?
First of many.
Oh dear.
I really liked it. So
I like it. I have this weird kind of I don't know. It's almost like a stage fright of being in art, and I only call it that because it's the closest thing I feel to actually like being prior to going on stage, which I've done before. Like I've done a little bit of stand up, like as amateur stuff. It's fun. I can only stand to do it like once every year. So, and like when I see like a picture go up and I'm in it, I just feel like very awkward, very tense, just knowing that people are gonna see it, knowing people are gonna react to it. And it's weird because it's not something I feel quite so much when I post stories that I've written. It feels so much more playful, so much more fun, and I kind of feel like almost like as if I can feel out the response when I get to it. But art, I have no control over. I'm not an artist. I don't draw these things. Well,
okay, I did go for something playful and fun, you've got to admit.
You did.
I did.
You did. It's the kind of thing, I would have liked this if I would have stumbled it across. FA, it's just, I got it in my email inbox, and it's like, oh my goodness.
But then you're like, okay, that's pretty good. So thank you, Rukus.
It was
you're
great,
awesome.
yeah.
Yes.
It's just the rare anthropomorphic.
Well, now maybe you can have some kind of little icon picture when you post on FA other than a screen cap from some TV show which airs on Saturday night.
Okay, the icon I'm using now was done by... Oh, what's her name?
Well, that one's cute, but a lot of yours still have,
And I was
some
using the
other
icon.
figure.
No, and I was using an icon by Notepad. The Notepad had done of Toonses, but Toonses is just a goddamn cat. That's the joke. If Toonses were an anthropomorphic cat, it would be commonplace that he's driving a car.
Apparently,
that's the point.
if Toonses was an anthropomorphic cat, he'd be driving my pants. But that's neither here nor there. Okay.
No, the joke there is that it's a regular damn cat that's doing it.
I'm interrupting you.
I've made my point. You can interrupt. Thank you.
So, Carnal shock. Well, this was a little bit of a departure for us because we did something different for those of you who listen, and I hope you did because it was good. We had it's not really a radio play, but I suppose we read the story, but the lines of our two main characters were acted out by Rahne, who played Jerry the Dalmatian, and you, Toonses, who played Sam the Fox, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about how that experience was for you.
Well, I had actually agreed to do this. Ronnie came to me with this idea before I knew he had submitted the story to you to read for the book club. I guess he wanted me to look at this thing kind of separately. And I don't know, whatever his plan was, but... So then I actually kind of agreed to do this a while ago, and I liked it because I was surprised at how well the audiobooks had done on our show and how much people were listening to them. Because I guess it must have always evaded me just how much people like to listen to books. I don't know, because I hate it, whatever. But, people like it, so good for them. So I thought, hey, it might be fun.
There's a ringing endorsement for you.
But no, I thought it seemed like it might be fun, and Ronnie seemed like a nice guy, and I liked the story, so cool, why not? And then... just turned out that we're going to be using for the book club, so hey, cool. That actually works out perfectly.
And I mean, how did you find the actual process?
Oh, it was fun. I mean, all I had to do was I kept one of these, I kept one of these microphones here, and you were kind enough to send me a script, a thing with just my lines highlighted so that I would get right through them and not miss any, which I still did.
Had to redo one?
Yeah, but I mean, I just sat here like maybe 15 minutes. I was able to do a couple different tries for each line, and then I sent it to Ronnie. Actually was able to host it on my website, which made it super convenient. I got it to Ronnie, and he had a couple suggestions. We redid a couple lines. Only took like half an hour, 45 minutes late one night or something like that.
Cool.
It was fun because it's one of those things where like they say it's a completely cut up process, and you go in and you do your lines and you don't even know what you're reacting to, really. Yeah, it's kind of exactly like that.
Yeah. Well, at least you read the story, so I guess it's a little more than some movie actors. But yes, it does illustrate that, what a multi-country and multi-continent effort the Bad Dog Book Club is, for those of you who don't know. Alex, the CEO of Bad Dog Books, is in Amsterdam. He's in the Netherlands, and so we're often... having him record stuff or zipping files across the Atlantic to each other, and, we've got microphones here. Ronnie is up in Canada. We've got, readers. I love that. I mean, that's one of the things I love about doing this, is working with people all over. So, thank you, people all over.
Yeah, what I wanted to impress was just how much, like Ronnie's drive to actually go out and do it kind of impressed me. Yeah. I thought that was nice. Hey, cool.
Yeah. And when I stepped up and edited it together, too, which I really appreciated being at FAU, because I was like, there's no way I'm going to have time to do it last weekend. So I appreciate Ronnie stepping up and splicing all the parts together. Excellent job. Sounded great. Yeah, it sounded really good. As those of you who follow me on Twitter, I was sitting here like, I actually edited this story. I've read it about 5 times at least, and I'm sitting here driving in the car getting a boner as I listen to it again.
Oh my word.
That was partially the story and an excellent reading by you and Ronnie. Yes, it is dirty.
That is distracted driving, though.
It is distracted
from the Bad Dog Book Club.
Hey, I kept it in my pants. Didn't want to get too distracted.
But I guess I imagine that like some conservative might be driving down the road listening to Rush Limbaugh with the stiffies, so I guess just shouldn't judge.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a terrible, terrible thing to think about. Never mention it again.
It happens all the time. I can't get it out of my head.
Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, God.
And just people's responses.
That's why you keep screaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about the actual content of the story. I mean, it's a really cute little story, and that's one of the things I like about it. We read. We've read a lot of very weighty stories, honestly.
Yes.
For this podcast.
And this one was very pornographic.
Please excuse the wind in the background, but we're not closing the window because it is 90 degrees out. So yes,
it's a natural theme. I like the atmosphere.
Exactly.
But like it's a very pornographic story in the sense that it evokes how an actual pornographic movie is set up and shot and conceived and produced. That is that eventual kind of end product, the kind of thing that you imagine. It's like you said, even after having read it 5 times, it was still kind of activating your on switch. That's the kind of thing that, we might really appreciate the flowery prose and like the wonderful use of imagery in this other story, but if it's having this kind of effect on you, whatever critique you might want to level against it, you kind of have to take with a grain of salt because it's having its intended effect.
And I really don't have any critiques against it. I think it, as you said, it sets up to do something very simple, and it does it.
Yeah.
And that's something laudable, I think. Because we do read a lot of stories, and we will read. I mean, I love the stories you read that are very complicated and angsty and, filled with skullduggery and murder and broken hearts and all these things. But it's fun to sometimes, just get to something fun and porny and enjoy it.
That's the way I approach when I'm writing, is I think at the end of the day, people want to get off. Mm-hmm. I always imagine people reading my stories at like 3:15 a.m. and thinking, oh my god, it's so late, I gotta get to sleep. Oh shit, I should have jerked off first.
There you go. We've talked about that. I mean, I said that, there's nothing wrong. It's like the people who, on So Free, they have that little, like, I came button, and then there are people, like, or they'll get, like, comments on their picture, like, somebody said they came, I don't want to know that. It's like, you drew fucking porn. What do you think? Oh, thunder now. That's good. It's like you drew porn.
As the anger in you is rolling up.
You can't be upset that somebody came if you drew porn. Stop drawing porn. Then you can be upset, maybe.
I don't get the anger either.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was like the lone defenders of that.
It was a cute story. And there are a bunch of little things. I like the... I mean, let's talk about furry stereotypes a moment.
I always try to invent them, because I have no idea where they even come from. Like, what possible kind of, like, basis could there be for a furry stereotype in the world? Like, you just create
there aren't any real furries, so...
No. So you can't, like, observe their behaviors and, like, examine, like, what they're doing, like, sociologically, whatever.
I know, Eli Lapso earlier this week was trying to collect furry stereotypes from people, so I'll have to check with him and see, what he's found. But, of course, there's the fox one, which this plays off of, that they're bottoms. All foxes are bottoms. We all know this, right? And that they're sly and sneaky and tricky. And it reminded me of the start of Kyle Gold's Out of Position, where it's just basically the first section of that book. That's the tiger's attitude, clearly. The foxes are, sneaky and sly, and you can't quite trust them.
Well, that sounds kind of like it's drawn more from legends and things like that. Mm-hmm, there's some actual, like, literary basis for that, but I always wanted, like, I was trying to popularize the furry stereotype that all foxes smell like saltwater taffy.
Wow.
Because why not? Why shouldn't
saltwater taffy have much of a smell?
Yeah, it smells fucking delicious. Have you ever had saltwater taffy?
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Okay.
It's awesome.
The smell never really
would that be a terrible thing? And the thing is, whenever I assert to foxes that they smell like saltwater taffy, and they get angry about it.
Because real-life foxes smell pretty,
like animals.
rank.
They smell like wild animals.
Yeah.
Like they smell like, obviously.
That's putting it mildly.
Jeez, I'm crap. I don't even want to describe in words what a wild fox probably smells like.
I've met some stinky animals. Foxes are pretty stinky.
But in fake life.
But anyway.
In fake world. A fox can smell like saltwater taffy, because wouldn't that just be pleasant?
Yeah.
Or if you just met a dude that just smelled, like, faintly of watermelon deliciousness.
We have talked in the past about how, people pick species based on kind of cultural constructions of them. And so it makes sense, some of these that are fables and images, So yeah, fox is, of course, a great example, because, what are... think about words like foxy and vixen. Mm-hmm. We do associate those sexuality, and then Aesop's fable, slyness and tricksters. The Reynard, the trickster fox in French and European fairy tales.
Yes.
So I like. So we're having kind of exploration of this definite furry stereotype. Yeah. Foxes are all bottoms, and that's, of course, what Jerry, our Dalmatian, of course, assumes. Going into this, that he's going to nail this fox. Because he's not a fox, and so if you're not a fox and you're with a fox, obviously you're going to nail the fox.
Right.
That's how I operate personally.
Well, I chose not to interrupt. I was going to say that...
Very good. Touche, sir. Touche. I'm not going to interrupt, but I'm going to be passive-aggressive after the fact.
I chose not to interrupt. I was going to say that... Well, let me recollect my thoughts now.
I'm not sure this is an improvement.
I was going to say that, humans and animals have always interacted, so obviously animal imagery have always played roles in human stories. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense to me still that people would use animal imagery in stories, and it still makes sense to me naturally that people would make stories about animals, essentially, like animal people. Mm-hmm. And then I let you talk, and then it became, clearly all foxes are bottoms. And I think that's a good illustration, because that's what we've gotten to at this point in postmodern existence. Like, whatever that lofty, like, ancient fables about, the slyness and the craftiness of fox, now all our foxes are just getting fucked.
Well, I don't know. I think it's something that people...
Thanks, modern society.
But I think it's something that people play with, and this story is an example of that. I mean, it's a stereotype, but people recognize that it's a stereotype.
It's true.
And isn't true.
They do.
And so they play with it. It's something like there was an example. My
true.
partner.
No, hold on. You say it isn't true. You say flat out it isn't true, right? As if it necessarily can't be true. Is that true?
It's not 100% true.
Okay, but that's not what you said. You said it isn't true. You didn't say it isn't 100% true.
Okay.
Because here's the thing: is a lot of people might purposefully seek that out if they are bottoms in real life.
Well, they'll pick a fox because, hey, I'm a bot. Right, exactly. I'm a bottom. I want to do these things. This is a fox stereotype that'll help me do these things.
Oh,
we might have to edit out some of the thunder. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. Yeah, we might leave it in. It's good. It lends a.
Hold on. We rock paper scissors. I win. This all stays in.
Stop.
Oh, you make me take my shirt off, but you want to indulge me.
Yeah. That's not rock paper scissors. No, I think it's something that people play with. So example of this kind of thing is my partner Gray Bunny. He had a straight friend come to him, and after Bunny said I'm gay and blah and I'm with Skip, the straight friend's like, well, who's the guy and who's the girl?
Mm-hmm.
And Bun goes, that's not how it works, but I'm the girl. And I loved it. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. And it is this kind of recognition that this is a stereotype, but it's a stereotype that I can use to my advantage and I'm going to play with. And I think that's kind of the point, part of the point this story is making, that, we're, especially, if you're queer in some way, whether it's sexually or otherwise, you're faced with these stereotypes all the time, and you either learn to use them to your advantage or you go crazy.
Or you join a campus queer group.
Okay, let's talk. Let's talk. You said you have a pet peeve about campus queer groups, so let's
I don't know. I just don't like them.
Yeah,
because they're always just so wrapped up within themselves. Mm-hmm. And I remember the only thing, maybe I just had a bad experience with my campus LGBT group at campus, Faceless State University in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And all they really did was they organized an event, like one event during the year that was like an open house people could attend, where they had little signs up that talked about how sexuality isn't, something that is chosen, it's you're born with it, or maybe, you kind of get it or something, but you shouldn't be mean to people. I don't know, it just felt so completely insignificant. Mm-hmm. And after I left and I went to an LGBT organization in Washington, D.C. to do an internship, and I saw actual concrete work being done in regards to changing the conditions LGBT people live in the United States. Like, even me as a cynical person who likes to be so far outside the political spectrum and so cynical and so disrespectful of things just because they're successful, it was nice to see. I could actually see these things work.
That's it. I mean, you saw people doing something that you felt was more substantive.
Yeah, not just I mean, I guess I shouldn't be so cynical, because I think ultimately I just wasn't a social person, and that's what this was. It's and in the story, that's the function it serves too. Ultimately, it's a social group.
I like what he's saying about it, because it's something that I kind of see in furry. I think it's the immediate reaction that Sam takes, and he's a fox, so he's kind of pulling Jerry's leg here, or whatever. That kind of point about, we're trying to do important work here and change the world, and you're just coming looking for sex, is kind of what gets leveled at Jerry, which is true. I thought it was a good point to make, though, and this is why I like how the ending kind of ties it up, because I run into this, I feel, sometimes with furries, as well as the gay community, that, we're so wrapped up in changing the world, or so concerned about, what other people think of us, that we forget that, it's fun being gay, and it's fun being furry, and we should do the things that are fun.
Really?
Yeah.
It's fun?
It is. Oh, come on, dude, come on.
What on earth, really?
Come
this
on.
Is fun.
Now you're just bullshitting. Now you're just bullshitting.
I guess it's
to be
cool. No,
purposely
that's
annoying.
true. No.
Yeah. I mean, and it's something I think that sometimes people get a little too wrapped up in the political and the identity politics of, whatever group they're part of, to realize that, you're not doing this, or you're not this way, because it's political or whatever. You're doing it because you love it, and you are it, and you care about it. And that's important to remember. And so, yeah, a big part of being gay for a lot of folks is, the gay sex, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's what I like about this story.
I think I just have an issue with the terminology. I wouldn't say it's fun. I'd say it's clearly superior.
Oh man, I'm not touching that one. Wow. All right, so I apologize to all our,
I'm saying you're belittling it. You're belittling our superiority. You're belittling the authority we have over humanity.
Just because of
we as the gay elite.
Just because of that, next week's story is going to be a straight one.
No!
Jinx it.
No!
Yes.
Oh, god damn.
Hush a minute. Now, Jinx Tiger has sent in a couple stories, and they are straight. And so, finally, I know I've been promising it for a while, finally, we're going to have an MF story next week.
Cool.
And it's porny.
Oh,
and goodness. You are going to read it, and you're going to talk about it.
I'm going to read it, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, as we've talked about in the past, I'm bi, leaning gay, and he's just gay.
And I'm gay, leaning into the bathhouse.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's
not literally
that's pretty gay for all of you who aren't in on the bathhouse thing.
No, not me either. I always feel like I make enough of these jokes, and eventually people have to take enough of them seriously.
Right.
Like, oh my god, how bad must people think I am?
Pretty bad.
Oh, jeez, I'm crow.
All right. So no, I like that kind of discussion, but I like the ending. Saying that the political aspect of things and the changing aspect is important. Because it allows us to have more fun in the future, and it makes our lives better. And so I like that little. That's probably my favorite part of the story. I think in some ways is that little bit at the ending. Which is. If you start coming to our meetings, we can do this again. And I'll be the top or the bottom. And I like that little ending, and I thought it was very playful, which fit in with the story nicely.
And it's a story that's really hot. Mm-hmm. In real life, that's exactly why I didn't go.
Yeah, because you weren't hooking up.
No, because, why?
Yeah. I didn't hook up with anybody in my gay, straight alliance either. But I found it useful, at least for a few years.
What if they would have tried to hit on me? I would have been so awkward.
Poor buddy. Alright.
I should have just been born a neuter.
I did have one thing. One of the things I wanted to talk about here is the idea of perspective in the story. Because it's not the story's not written in the first person, not written in the second person. It is written in the third person. But it is clearly from the perspective of Jerry. In my opinion, it's in his head in a lot of ways is the viewpoint of the story.
Well, you tend to say that a lot of writers are bottoms.
I do. I wanted to bring that up.
I tend to say a lot of people are bottoms.
Yes,
you tend to think specifically writers are a lot of bottoms.
Well, no, that's a good point. So I don't listeners. What do you think? Because I maintain that most of the good, big name furry writers, at least I know, they're all bottoms. And, what's up with that? And I think you make a good point too. I think people can figure it out. Come on. Do a little homework here. But I think, and their partners, if they have one, don't write, or aren't artists or whatever, they're being, I guess they're too busy being tops like me, so. Yeah, and certainly my bunny draws, and stuff, and I don't, so there you go. A lot of artists, I think it's true for, too. So that's interesting to me, and you make a good point, and I think a lot of research backs this up, that, most people, in the straight or gay, men or women, are bottoms, so you say it's really not that surprising, because most people are going to be bottoms, but I don't know, I almost feel like it's even a little more disproportionate about that for writers, and I'm wondering, what is it, or maybe we don't even want to answer that today, but maybe think about
Yeah, let's give them homework.
If this is the case, why is this the case? So if you agree that, you know, that most of the writers are bottoms, like, why? And is it just a coincidence, or is there a reason? Or do you disagree? So yeah, let us know, because I'm interested. I have this, you know, I don't know. It's just It's just completely an unscientific observation on my part.
I see.
Yeah. But yeah, and part of that I base on, usually I think in porn stories, most of the stories I read on So Furry, at least the gay stories, let's put it this way, are written from the perspective of the bottoming character. And most of the stories you write are also, I'd say, written from the perspective of the bottoming character, I've noticed.
And I usually write
is that hotter in some way? Or is that more relatable because more of the readers are bottoms?
I tend to find the submissive perspective to be a bit more intriguing, and I don't know, maybe it's really revealing my own biases, but I tend to find the dominant perspective to be too single and, you know, forward. It just seems too much like, oh, you know, go dominate, compete, win. Like, I don't
if
get that.
You're in the bottom, there's more suspense in the story because your character knows less of what's going to happen to him.
Yeah, there's also that. There's also much more of a sense of there's stuff happening to the bottom, other things happening from the top, if you want to say that. I do, but I think that's also kind of a myth, and I don't. Writing maybe shouldn't support that. It might support the idea that more people are bottoms and more people want to read about bottoming, but it really shouldn't support the idea that, you know, tops are more in control or tops are more dominant necessarily, because we have a lot. We have to say.
Speaking as a top, it's like, oh man, you don't need to convince me on that. The so much of what happens in any given moment is dictated by the bottom.
So, because the problem is the ratio between tops and bottoms is not 50-50.
Yes,
but if you looked at the global,
I am very happy with personally.
If you looked at the global population between tops and bottoms for just instances of sex, the number of bottoms would be only slightly lower than the number of tops.
I think globally there are more bottoms than tops. Even if people aren't... I mean, it's more than just the physical act, you know. So even if, you know, there's a 50-50 ratio of people physically, you know, penetrating or being penetrated or whatever.
Slightly under. You gotta remember.
But I think, you know, in terms of the roles people are playing, I still think there are way more bottoms.
Mm-hmm. The point being, there are a lot of bottoms topping out there.
Yep.
The poor souls.
They've got to be versatile.
The poor souls.
Yep. You got to make do somehow.
Yeah, we appreciate your sacrifice.
Yep. You know, put two foxes in a bedroom problem.
Yeah, see, that's what this fox is doing. Right. I think this fox is sacrificing. This fox is sacrificing himself. So I still get the impression this fox is at the bottom. This fox wants to get plowed.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. He's a fox.
He is a fox. Right?
He wants to get plowed, but he's like sacrificed because the Dalmatian wants to get plowed too.
Yeah, no, I gotta work. No, I like that was one of the interesting things for me with this story is I actually helped Ronnie edit this story, and so I saw it in earlier versions, which was a first for me in terms of the podcast, and so it was interesting to see how it grew and think about my minor role as editor. And you know, one of the things which I think ended up working really well in the story, and I was very happy with how he did this, is one of the things I originally suggested is in this, we got to the sex scene, and it suddenly somehow the story became much more rote and static and less interesting in the original draft. And I kept thinking, what's going on here? Why is this less interesting? And I suddenly realized that Ronnie was describing all the, you know, cool sex going on.
How do you mean? Like saying, oh, and then he also penetrated his
right,
bone.
I mean, and it'd be, you know, well described, and it'd be hot, you know, and like, you know, he squeezed that knot in, or whatever, and which is great. But then I realized, like, all of a sudden, whereas the kind of prelude to the sex, so I guess we'll call it, you know, we know a lot of their emotions and their kind of humor about things and how they're feeling, and that he's awkward when Sam strikes him down at first, and how he feels. Then we got to sex and we didn't know how they felt anymore. And so that's what I said to Ryan. I said, go back and, like, you know, how does it feel for Jerry, as that knock goes in. Like, physically, mentally, emotionally, what is going on here for him? And so he went back and really, I think, worked that in. I think the end result was really, and I think it made it a much hotter sex scene. It made it much easier, it made it more visceral for me, and it made it easier for me to be kind of in there seeing myself in the characters.
Right.
So that was interesting as an editor, just a little editorial aside. An editorial.
That's cool. I hadn't seen the previously written version, so I'll take your word on it. I thought the end of what he came up with was pretty good.
Yeah, very hot. Like I said,
but
problems in the car.
My tip I think this is a trap that a lot of writers do fall into. Oftentimes I don't know, maybe they start getting distracted or something. I don't want to lay accusations or anything. But they start just kind of describing things in just a very direct, plain way. I also sometimes think as if they feel the work is over. Like, oh, I did the part of the story that people don't want to have to read, but read so they know what's going on. Now I can do the part that they're going to read anyway.
Right.
Like, no, you can't approach it like that. That part has to be good, too. So you have to concentrate on both. But I think my trick for avoiding this is go into your word filter and find your protagonist's name and do immediate replace with the word defendant and see if it reads like a court document.
Ooh, wow, that is really cool. I've never heard that before.
No, I've never even tried it, but it sounds like an idea in my head.
It sounds brilliant.
No, it sounds
so you should
awesome.
try. Writers, you should try that. I really like this idea of that. That's a really interesting idea.
Yeah. Or if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, you could just read the stories and try harder.
But yeah, that's how it would read if you're not doing this job with the sex scene. If it does read like defendant did this, that's what you're going to
thorough and detailed and give a good sense of what happened. That's what a court document.
But if you don't get it, the stuff that you're not supposed to do in court is, emotions, reactions, implications, feelings.
I'm going to start working Latin phrases into my
pulp. That's what you've got to have in.
Yeah.
Latin is cool.
So if a guy is being held on the edge of orgasm, I'm going to describe it as stare decisis.
Yeah. Latin is cool.
Yeah.
Gotta look it up. I mean, they gotta look it up. We're not gonna help them.
Stare decisis, yeah. Look it up.
So, I don't know, do we have much more to say? I think we've covered some good ground. It was a fun story. I enjoyed it. Thank you, Ronnie. I need to take a few pictures first, and then I'll let him put his shirt back on.
Can I take the leash off?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh my god, this leather is so cloying.
You didn't ask
skin.
right, but no. Alright, so if that's it for us, that's it for me. And that's it for you. Right, bitch? Just kidding, We're not that, despite what illustrations may indicate. We have a very professional relationship, so...
The things I let Tops get away with.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta act out these roles to an extent. So, we will see you next week, where we will have a heterosexual story by Jinx Tiger. So do join us then. Have a lovely Memorial Day weekend, and I hope you didn't have to work today. So that's it for me. Ciao.
Ciao.
That's it.
Ciao, Bellows.